Yeah, overheard I was lost on the curb, lost in the bird, swinging I swerve. While I got up, let me tell you these words. Let me kick it and flip it and get it out the dirt. I'm a man, fell short to the man. Upstairs my plan, get it right down here with a fight down here. Get my life right now, no stand. No more infatuated, impersonating a lie. No more assassinate.
Hello everyone, this is Jay Neal, the God Seeker. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone had a blessed weekend and received a good word from their home church. I just got home now. It's about 9:30. I had a long day at work, so this video is going to be super late. For other issues, if you want to know, just go to my Facebook, John J. Neal, Hurtado. Anyway, I've been fighting and struggling whether to do this particular video, all week. I was debating whether if it was God or not, and turns out I was just like really trying to beat around the bush and avoid the topic and this issue. Seems like I'm always running away from this issue since I became a believer 5 years ago. So basically what I'm going to do today is tell you my testimony. For years I really strayed away from this. I've only mentioned it maybe about 4 or 5 times, my Christian walk, my whole Christian walk. So God's really been nudging me and pushing me to do it. For a particular person or group. This doesn't pertain to everyone, but I pray that it still touches everyone who watches this video. Now I'm not going to tell you my whole life story. I'm not going to go back like 20 years ago, 25 years ago. I'm not going to go into elaborate detail, and I'm not going to give you a bunch of information. I mean, because basically, like my childhood, my teenage years, or your typical teenage life, you know. But I grew up in the hood, so I hung around with thugs, the wrong crowd, like real gangsters, drug dealers. I did drugs myself. Done many drugs, been using many drugs, and just been involved in many crimes and whatnot. But that's not what I'm here to tell you. What I want to tell you today is, is how I came about knowing God, and basically the process of how I was led there. It started maybe about 8 years ago when I first met my wife. We were together for about 8 years. We were married 6. I met her through her cousin. Him and I used to do music together. We used to write and produce and do hip-hop shows together. And one day, I guess, you know, she heard about me, heard some music of mine, and reached out to me on social media. So from there, we met up and used to, you know, just hang out and go on dates and stuff. And then sooner or later, as time went by, we moved in together, and that's when things got a little bit more complicated, because she still had feelings for her ex-boyfriend. She actually had left him for me, but still had ties with him. So that developed insecurities and trust issues between us both. And then after a while, she stopped trusting me because I flat out didn't trust her. But we remained together for the time being, and we decided to have a child together. My baby girl, who's 6 years old now. We had planned to have her, and when my wife had got pregnant, I decided that I wanted to propose to her and get married. Now, the main reason why I wanted to get married was because I didn't want my baby to be born out of wedlock. I really felt that it was important that she'll be born to a married mother and father. So that's what I had done. But not only that, my wife's aunt had told me one time in secret that it was a sin to live together without being married, and that we should get married. And I didn't take it serious at that time. I brushed it off, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna do what I do. But when my wife became pregnant, it really hit me and how important it was. I really wanted to have that covenant between us, and especially for my daughter's sake as well. So I was convicted per se, even though I was a heathen and was a very wicked person. I still felt convicted, and that's what I wanted to do. So our first year of marriage, it was very complicated. We still had the same issues. We still had insecurities and trust issues as well. We had bad habits. We had certain particular drug habits that we did on our own, and we drank very heavily, like beyond human consumption. We just went overboard and beyond. A lot of times that's where our fighting and arguments would start from drinking and getting very drunk, heavily drunk, and as well as other drugs in the mix. I started doing a little drug dealing at my apartment when I had my daughter, just for extra income as well. My life didn't really change. I kind of like settled down a little bit as far as avoiding trouble. I wanted to basically just hold my household down and be available to my family. So I tried my very best to avoid trouble. It just seemed like the relationship between my wife and I was going down like really fast. It was going sour, and it seemed like it would never work out, and we must have split up at least 3 or 4 times. So within maybe that 2-year period between me and her together dating and being married, so about 2.5 years. I really say that I started getting attacked like really bad by like her I don't know, like family, her family, her as well, and it just made me even more angry, and I started to hate her, and the way I was, she started to hate me too, because I would try to reason with her and tell her why I feel that way, and she would not understand. It was just, we were both selfish in our own ways. One day we got home super late, and we were like totally drunk, and we got in a little argument, and she had threatened to kill herself. She wanted to slit her wrist. So what I had done, I went to the kitchen, I grabbed a big knife, and I gave it to her, told her to do it, and I sat there, and as she described, I don't remember this, but she described me laughing in it wasn't human. She said that that it wasn't me that was talking, and it wasn't me that was laughing. That it was something else, and I don't remember that at all. But now that I think about it, I know for sure it was demonic. I brushed it off that day. She told me the next day, and I didn't take it seriously. I had no idea what was around us spiritually, and I was a Christian. I claimed to be one. I knew that, to be saved, that we must believe in God, and I know there was a heaven and a hell, and I knew Jesus was the only way, but my life was so twisted. There was nothing Christian about me, and besides that, I had no idea what kind of things we were battling spiritually. So when she had told me about that incident that night, I thought she was joking. I thought maybe she was too drunk to even tell. I don't know. So that was one incident, but it just continued on. That year was very, very crucial for us. And one night, her cousin that came over, her homosexual cousin with her lover, and we were drinking and partying and smoking, and we just had a little get together. It was just us four, and I remember after they had left that night, my wife and I got in an argument for some reason. I couldn't tell you why or what sparked it, but it got so bad that I just wanted to get up and leave. Because I've always tried my hardest to not get too mad at her, where I would take out my frustrations on her. But there was times where I wanted to so bad because of our past and the things that she had done, and it was just like we should have separated a long time ago. But that night we got in a real bad argument, and I remember I wanted to leave. So what I had did was I had picked up my daughter, and I was headed out the door. And as I was leaving, she chunked a beer bottle at me, unopened, brand new bottle, and missed me and hit the door. And I remember just snapping. I snapped like never before, I was always very protective of not only my wife but my daughter. And I had my daughter in my hand, so when I realized she was throwing it not only at me but at her and my daughter, I snapped. So I had put my daughter in our bedroom. I came back out, and I had basically just threw my wife on the floor, and I repeatedly slapped her on the side of her face so much I had to stop myself and realize what I was doing. I got up. She called the cops right away, and I sat down and I waited for the police to arrive. She didn't press any charges on me. They took me in for, the police claimed as public intoxication, But when I had got there, the judge had told me I was being charged for domestic violence. And I pleaded guilty to it, but they released me in 3 days, and I was found not guilty. They didn't charge me with it. But I was willing to take the charge. I was willing to pay for what I've done. 3 days later, 4 o'clock in the morning, I was released, finding myself with no vehicle, no ride, no money, walking home in the rain from the municipal court from downtown, walking to Greens Point, to where I have lived at that time. And it was going to be a long walk. By the grace of God, I seen headlights coming down the street. Mind you, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. There's no traffic, nothing. It's deserted. And this car comes out of nowhere. Flat tire. Lady needs help. I get the spare out the trunk. It's flat. Record driver comes, helps us out, airs up the tire, put the tire on, and we're on our way. She takes me to my apartment. No one's there. I don't have any keys. So I go to my mother-in-law's. My wife is not there, but my mother-in-law gives me a few bucks, and I give that lady some gas money. I ask her to take me to my mom's. I go to my mother's house, and my wife's vehicle is there, but no one's there. She had went to Galveston that night with my mom and the rest of my family. So I can't describe the rage and anger I had felt that day or that night. I ended up spending the night there and waiting for them. But by then I was calm. I just wanted to go home. I came home. She went to her mom's. I went home alone. Everything was gone. She basically cleaned out the apartment. And there you go. I was single, living by myself, and I never felt so lonely in my life. So I would always want to see my daughter every weekend. Every chance I got, I wanted to see my daughter. So I would see her every weekend. Every weekend I would want her to come over, and I would, feed her, change her, buy her outfits every weekend, and that was my life. I worked every day, seen her every weekend, but during the week I was still smoking. Now I had quit drinking. I didn't drink anymore, but I smoked very, very heavily. And when I was in jail, there was a guy in there, and he talked to me about secret organizations, particularly the Illuminati, which I had never heard of. Never even heard the term or word. Never even knew secret societies existed. So I remember that going home a few days later, I remembered that. So I started looking it up, and it piqued my interest so much that I had discovered a guy named Professor Griff, which he was a former member of Public Enemy. And it's an old hip-hop group back in the early 90s, mid-80s kind of. He did a lot of classes in Chicago, and I got a hold of his number, talked to him, and I wanted to learn a little bit more. But I started looking at other resources and started discovering that a lot of these organizations were occulted, like satanic, dealt with a lot of demonic activity, and that really kind of like struck a fear in me. Like I felt that there was nothing that I could do, you know. I bought into it and I believed everything that I was seeing and hearing, and he's telling me all these things too as well. So I turned to my Bible and I started reading my word every now and then. I wasn't like heavily reading my word. I would just read a scripture here. Maybe a week later I read a couple more here. But it just wasn't enough. After a while I started seeing things around my apartment, seeing things around my peripheral. Strange things started happening, and I wasn't sure what was going on. I just felt like there had to be more power than that. There had to have been something more powerful than what these people were telling me. And the first thing I thought was Jesus. And I told that guy, Professor Griff, I said, look, I know you're trying to help your people out, but why don't you tell them about Jesus? And he's one of those, he doesn't believe in God, especially a blue-eyed, blonde-haired man, white man. So he was more of a supremacist, and he had these weird ideas and theologies. Basically cursed me out after I said that, but it's funny because about a month later, my wife had called me, told me that she's been going to a church for the past month, and she invited me to go. She said a friend of hers invited her, so she went, and that's what she's been doing. But I was like, okay, fine. I was kind of skeptical. I didn't want to go. But then she told me where it was at. She told me that they would have service at a hotel in the southwest side called the Pimp Hotel. Now, the service was at 7:30 at night in the southwest. And she would bring my daughter with her. So that brought up a red flag. And also she would go to a home group, a little gathering at someone's house to have Bible study. And I didn't like that either. So that's what drew me towards the church. So one day I went to service at the Pimp Hotel. And that first night, I didn't stay in service. I went to the daycare area to watch my daughter because I didn't trust anyone. I definitely didn't trust these so-called Christians. So I went and examined these people and was basically watching my daughter. That following week, I went to the next service and decided that she was fine and sat in the back with my wife. I remember basically I wanted everything back. I wanted my wife back, I wanted my daughter back, I wanted my family. And it just seemed like the ground was crumbling beneath me. And I didn't know what to do. There was nothing I could do to fix it. My wife had pretty much had her mind made up. And I don't know what made her invite me, I don't know why she even considered it. But God had actually spoken to me. I was there and I would see like real people that walked where I walked, seen what I've seen. These were young people that were there. And it was just something that I've never seen before. I was so used to darkness and violence. And when I was there, I felt the Lord's presence. And that's what I knew. I knew that's power right there. And I wanted to experience more of that. And God told me that I had to surrender everything that was important to me. Even my wife and my daughter. I had to surrender them too. I had to let everything go. And it was hard. It was hard for me. It was really, really, really hard. Because I wanted all these things back. I wanted my life to get better. But I knew I had to change. I knew something had to happen with me. Something had to happen to me. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't change on my own. I couldn't do it on my own. So I surrendered. And I gave my life to the Lord. And I knew there was something more. There was something more that was missing. There was a fire that I needed. And I seen this fire in my brother. The little home group that my wife went to, she took me over there one time. And I seen this dude was younger than me. And I seen him, man. He was devoted, and he was filled with the Spirit of God. And I knew there was nothing false about him. And that's when he introduced me to some Christian hip hop, which I had never heard. He gave me a CD. But I was like this. How do I get that? How do I transform that like that? So I would spend hours every day in prayer. Just cold turkey, just nothing making me. I wanted to. I just decided to say, you know what? I'm gonna go pray. And that's when I learned how to fight my flesh. Because you can go confess and be a Christian and never have a prayer life. But my first 8 months, that's when I was like, I want to experience this on my own, because you go to church and experience it, but I wanted to experience it at home. And that's what I did. I would spend hours every day in prayer. I would read books, Christian books. And I started developing an obedience and discipline and gifts. And one night in prayer, I got baptized in the Holy Spirit in the room. And I started speaking in tongues. And I didn't believe it. And I was like, no, this is not true. I'm not speaking in tongues. And so I started doing it slowly. And I could hear every syllable. And talking about weeping, I broke down weeping hard, man. So there you go. That's what happened. That's how I became a disciple of Jesus Christ. I just pray that it blesses someone.
Every step I take and why the question when I focus on changing my life? Change my mind, I'm chasing the spirit like I ain't never giving up. You heard the voice tonight, say survive Pyrex, never lie Pyrex, got a right Pyrex, came too far, so shine for the Lord, cause you died in my arms and I resurrected, you get your talents and I perform, resurrected, you get your talents and I perform.